Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for joining us, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or streaming on our social media apps, including Facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the El Paso Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter, at Talk El Paso, and Twitch, Andrew J. Polk. Streaming in all those places. Also, the free and reliable iHeartRadio app if I missed that one, because I want to have that conversation about the things that affect us here in the borderlands. So if you're tuning in that way or any of those ways, really, I like the interaction that comes with the online stuff and kind of the way the tech is moving. But we'll still be there on air, and I don't want anyone to misconstrue this as not being in favor and supporting of our on-air guests as well, because talking about it, being informed about it, and any way, shape, or form is, well, it's a lot better than the alternative, is the way I'm going to choose to put that at this moment here. So thank you for joining us. A couple things, major topics anyway, going to be talking about here on the show today, including more details coming out about that motion by the Texas Attorney General, and in conjunction with Missouri, the buddy cop movie that keeps having sequels that I wasn't expecting there. But more specifically, even as we're counting down to the holidays, I mean, on the verge of Christmas here, and of course, New Year's just behind, there's another, well, let's call it holiday, or at least date of note that is being counted down there by, well, interested parties in our region and beyond, more specifically on the New Mexico side of things when it comes to the legalization of marijuana, 100 days out here, right about now. So, going to talk about that. Plus, as I talked and mentioned yesterday, as we have Leroy Chuck joining us over on the Facebook page, facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Going to be joined in a little bit with an interview with the CEO of El Paso Electric, and talking about all of that stuff that is going on with the public utility that we have that is very important to us doing this show at the very least, and frankly, most facets of modern life. Because, I mean, if you don't have it, well, we saw what happened last year with the rest of the state here. So yeah, we're having that conversation with Kelly Tomlin, the president and CEO of El Paso Electric. So stay tuned for that one here, of course. So let's just break down, but before we get into that and all of those very important, let's talk about a different kind of green and not energy. So when it comes to, we do have Ron Stanwyck chiming in from Del Rio, Texas there. Thanks for tuning in and chiming in that way. So we have we've been talking about all the implications here, what's coming up with the possibilities, because the legalization, state level, again, a very important caveat, particularly for those that might travel north from the Texas side of things anyway into New Mexico with any of these products. Here's a hint, you're going to have a bad time, but more broadly, some of the expectations about the actual implementation, rubber hitting the road moment for legalized marijuana within New Mexico. It's been this kind of rolling situation where there are now the ability to have it, if you are a New Mexico resident, a certain number of plants and products and such within basically your personal residence. But the real impact for the majority of our listening area, frankly, is probably going to be when the actual retail legalization comes about. And there's some interesting analysis coming out here from some of the people we've had on the show before commenting on it, but more specifically from a group called Ultra Health, calling out the fact that there may not be enough supply. Now, some may end up, frankly, applauding this, but it's an interesting situation to look at, because this was actually something that kind of plagued New Mexico even before this point, because before coming to this legalization thing, they actually did have the medicinal use of marijuana, and getting that started was kind of like pulling teeth. I actually sat down at one point and read the full list of requirements that were going into being able to start up a grow up in support of that within the state of New Mexico. And complicated is an understatement when it comes to that. And the regulation involved in it, the board structure, the people and the qualifications of people who sit on that board, all the way down to the construction of the facility and the security system required to be used in it. Extensive and very, very specific. And that seems to kind of be carrying over, because according to this group, they have yet to license enough cannabis producers to meet demand. that there are just 8 additional operators beyond the 34 legacy medical cannabis licensees, according to the Regulations and Licensing Department's portal on all of this. So, in round figures here, that there's going to be a minimum of about 425,000 plants to be productive to meet the expected demand here. There's only going to be about a quarter of that, just over 100,000 here. So just some interesting specifics that, particularly if anyone out there was maybe not planning to partake, but maybe start a business, start some kind of like cannabis tourism, that has been also kind of debated, as well as the law enforcement aspect, cannot be understated. It's about this time every year that people end up on various news outlets putting up the list of the famous people who have gotten busted in our region, either at the airport or at the checkpoints or even at the ports of entry. Just bad stuff, in part that I'm very happy I'm not involved in. Lou, I checked with another question for the El Paso Electric CEO. Again, get into that here in just a second. We got to some of those questions, particularly that y'all suggested as well here, so stay tuned for that. But just this whole cannabis situation, it fascinates me with the possibilities and the problems that could come along with it. But this is one I didn't expect, I have to admit. The idea that there might not be enough. There's a whole lot more to go into that here, but we're going to end up taking that break early so we can get into our interview here. So, comments going over on the social pages right now. We got Ron Sandwick, Leroy Chuck Moore tuning in, chiming in. Again, coming up next, we'll be talking with the CEO and president of El Paso Electric about the state of our area and what you can expect from when you flip the switch. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690. Something that a substance that is not at all scheduled that I like to turn to at about this point in the day is Clever Tea, because tea is something that I enjoy drinking. And when I found a local vendor and creator of it, both design and then brewing it themselves, I was intrigued, wanted to know more, tried it, and ended up liking it and was buying it myself and now partnering with us here on this program. So if you want to try it for yourself, you can do so by visiting clevertea.com. That's KLEVRTEA.com, as in the stuff that you drink. Or you can find them at their storefront at 230 North Copia, particularly as we are ever increasingly close to the gift-giving season. Because, Christmas is great and all, but if you want to give it any time of the year, frankly, you can do so by finding them at their storefront, again, 230 North Copia, just south of Copia and I-10, or clevertea.com. They're also out in the community a bunch here, but let's focus on the orders for right now, because if you go to the website, clevertea.com, and enter the code radio15 at checkout, you can get that discount on your next order. So, shop local, support local, try to do as much as I can anyway, and enjoy the local produced tea, clevertea.com, KLEVRTEA.com.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Checking El Paso traffic, I-10 westbound at Lee Trevino. 2 left lanes still remain closed from an earlier overturned vehicle, an accident in that area. I-10 westbound at Sunland Park. 2 left lanes closed. They're both CD lanes. Got a stalled truck blocking the right shoulder. I-10 eastbound at the Patriot Freeway. And I-10 westbound downtown El Paso at exit 19B. That accident is cleared. All lanes are back open. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Panera. Panera believes in saying yes to the good things. Yes to chicken sausage and pepperoni. Yes to flavorful tomato sauce and rich cheeses. And yes to putting it all on a crispy flatbread. The new sausage and pepperoni flatbread. Order on the app today. Panera. Live your yes. Restrictions apply.
In 1982, Melissa Tate identifies Rodney Lincoln as her mother's killer. Then in 2015, Melissa says Rodney didn't do it. On the Real Killer podcast, Leah Rothman reveals what may be a miscarriage of justice.
It was one of the most brutal crimes in St. Louis history. A single mother murdered. Her 2 young daughters barely survived the attack. I'm on a mission to find the real killer.
Listen to The Real Killer on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
There's no place like home for the holidays, except when you're stuck sleeping on the pull-out couch in the basement. This year, I'm resting my head at Red Roof in my own comfortable, affordable, and clean space. You know, you can save up to 20% this holiday season at Red Roof locations. Plus, pets stay free at Red Roof, so Fluffy can come along for the holiday fun. This holiday season, book your own space at redroof.com and save up to 20%.
Hey El Paso, the Christmas season is here, and this is our gift to you. This is Ivan Ochoa, General Manager from Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. Upgrade for less with huge year-end savings, exceptional trade-in values, 0 down, 0 APR for 72 months with no payments for 90 days.
Save thousands in interest with 0 APR for 72 months on 2022 Ram trucks, Jeep Grand Cherokees, and Dodge Durango SUVs. Upside down in your current car, truck, or SUV? We want it, even if you owe up to $10,000 more than it's worth. Looking to save thousands on your next car, truck, or SUV? The all-new Sunlight Park Dodge Certified Pre-Owned Supercenter has a great selection with more arriving daily. All military personnel and all first responders receive an additional discount. Thank you for your service. Get huge year-end savings during the Big Finish sales event at Sunlight Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, or buying a car is still fun at I-10 at Sunlight Park Drive or online at sunlightparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina El Paso strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL and 0 APR is $13.89 per thousand finance on select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
The most current and comprehensive. Just minutes away at the top and bottom of the hour. And always online at KTSMradio.com. News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
As we continue to approach the holidays, you don't want to miss a moment of it more than you have to. Anyway, there are always those unavoidable circumstances that you run into. Had friends and family that unfortunately got sick over the holidays. Just a miserable way to be. So if you have those kind of situations or any of those other day disruptors, aches, breaks, sprains, bruises, those sniffles, need for testing, any of it, the resource you need to go to and that I trust for this kind of circumstance to get you back on track and able to enjoy this time is Upper Valley Urgent Care Center, 121 East Red Road. Dr. Carpenter and his team are ready to take care of you, your family, your friends, whoever needs it, because they're open on these holidays, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7 days a week, 20-plus exam rooms ready to take care of you. And they're a VA-authorized care provider. So again, find them there. Easy to get to, I-10 and Red Road, Upper Valley Urgent Care Center.
From the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. Follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Welcome back here to Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media platforms that we're on, Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk on YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, as well as, of course, Facebook. That's one of our main pages here. But a lot of stuff we're talking about as we're particularly getting up towards the end of the year, some big subjects that have been current throughout this past year and frankly beyond, no pun intended in this case, because we are joined now here by Kelly Tomlin, President and CEO of El Paso Electric. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us, Andrew.
Absolutely. It's been a pretty significant part of the conversation just about general issues in and around and affecting this region about utilities, and it is hard to overstate how important electrical service is, particularly with the example that is very front of mind right now, what happened with the rest of Texas around this, coming up on this time last year. So you have been in place with our local utility here for a couple of years now, and so you came in kind of right just before, like in a decent breathing room before that event happened, and that was a very interesting time that there was reporting going on about what didn't happen in El Paso. Was the very kind of interesting juxtaposition going on at that moment.
Right. And we certainly got a lot of attention nationwide. As you'll recall, we were on CNN. People talked to us from around the globe, I think. I have probably been on 10 panels to discuss why we stayed in power and how we stayed in power. So I think it was, from a technical perspective, very interesting, but from a brand issue for El Paso, also very positive.
Yeah, that, again, for what didn't happen here is not usually how even just news goes in general, but this has been not exactly how it was planned for you to come on. What are some of the major things that you have worked on in at least your tenure so far at the head of El Paso Electric?
Well, the first thing we did was we took a look at our vision, our mission, our strategic plan, and we really redid all of those. We have a deep focus on economic development, and we really put that in the center of our written vision. We went over our strategic plan and decided we needed a refresh. So we created a new strategic plan. Certainly, everything about getting things done involves a leadership team and your team. We worked really hard on building the team. We've set goals around technology, and we've all set goals about, I don't know, thinking bigger, being best in class, and a lot of cultural initiatives that we've invested in this year.
New technology is a very interesting topic here because something very front of mind for a lot of our audience here are things like gas prices. But another topic that we've definitely talked about is what's going to be happening next. Something that I've just noticed myself over the years is how, corner gas stations have been slowly kind of evaporating because they're getting replaced by other things. And that leads to a natural question of kind of what happens next. And that is something that you all have been decently focused on, particularly when it comes to EVs or electric vehicles, as they're people very familiar with Tesla, but with a very, obvious move by other major manufacturers into that. I mean, that will turn, public utilities such as what you all do into more than just home power, but literally on the roads here. So that is something that you all have been working to address with some programs and some eye towards that technology. What are some of the major things you all are working along those lines?
Sure. Electrification of transportation in particular is going to be a game changer. We know that both for our system and for our customers. I want to point out that we tend to believe electric vehicles are a new thing. They're around, especially in London, in the 1920s. It's proven technology. I got my first electric car in 2015. When I came here in 2017, I got a Tesla. I have 2 electric cars. We've done a number of things. The first one is we started our own internal EV club so we can learn and lead by example. We have, number 2, set up partnerships with local retailers that really provide rebates. A lot of what we're doing in context of that is education and information. We have a lot of information that we put out to educate about the myths of EVs. Number 1 is that, you have to charge somewhere other than your home. That's not true. There's a lot about range anxiety. The third thing we are doing is we're working with coalitions to make sure we have charging stations and that we have the right infrastructure. It's a chicken and egg thing, right? Nobody wants to invest in charging stations unless there's cars, and people don't want to buy cars.
Right.
But I think the real power, if we think about it, and you've alluded to it, of electrification of transportation is threefold. The first one is, you alluded to that too, is saving money. As gas prices go up, it becomes even more affordable to have an electric car. The second one, as we all have talked about a lot, is making our environment, our climate more sustainable. And the third thing that's hidden, which for me, I find the most interesting, is that it gives us the opportunity to move a lot of our electric usage off peak. Today, throughout the country, we build infrastructure that's very expensive, that's used a couple hundred hours a year. And what electrification allows us to do is move load to a time when we're not using our most inefficient power plants and the gas and that need more gas. So it allows us to allow our customers to use something they've already invested in more effectively. So there's a lot of benefits to it, both in sustainability, affordability, and efficiency. So we're really excited about it, but it is going to take the coalition, and we're partners with our local education institutions and manufacturers to make sure that El Paso in this region gets our funding, fair share of the funding.
At the kind of lower and consumer level here, there are also programs that you all have working on to essentially incentivize people to at least look at electric vehicles now or into the future, right?
Sure. And there's various opportunities from your retailer that provides incentives as well, tax benefits, but the real benefit overall is being able to not have to buy gas, not have to maintain your vehicle. I had to go get my vehicle inspected. There's nothing to inspect. They just, you hold up. I've never been to, I haven't had any maintenance in 3 years on my electric vehicle. So there's really a convenience, but an affordability play as well. So you'll save money initially, but the real savings, I think, comes from the long haul of your vehicle.
If you're just joining us, guest right now is Kelly Tomlin, President and CEO of El Paso Electric. Want to find out more information about what they do and some of the topics we're talking about, including their initiatives. You can find them online at epelectric.com or El Paso Electric on most social media pages, including Facebook here. So that's one aspect of it here. But another one that I've been, again, personally interested in is that kind of sustainability aspect, the other renewables and such things. And that's something that you all have been working on when it comes to, say, working with solar, both how it works on the personal level and the policies in place for that, but also working on it on utility scale, essentially. But one of the criticism that comes from that, and we even had our own listeners mention here, is that solar can only work at most half the day. When, sun's not shining, doesn't work. But that's something that you all have also been working on that gets a little bit overlooked, I think, including in utility scale, rather, battery backups and that kind of technology, right?
Sure. And I think our market structure is a little bit misunderstood. We, the electric company, just can't go out and build infrastructure when we want to. We can't say, oh, we'd like some renewables. Let's put some in the ground. It doesn't work that way. You have to have what's called, and I don't want to get too technical, an integrated resource plan that shows you how your system works and what you actually need. Back in the day before these were required, the utilities were accused of overbuilding because they wanted to get paid additional funding. But what we have to do after that, then that shows us what we need and where we need it and whether we need renewables or what we need. And then we have to go out for a request for proposals. We just can't build it then either. And the least cost, most effective bidder wins. So that's how that works. It is really a technical decision what gets built where and how. So we did that in 2017. And it takes a long time to get things built, and we're waiting on the renewable resources from that bid to be built now. And a lot of us have heard about supply chain issues, and yes, and one of our bidders is experiencing that. So we are working hard to make sure that 270 megawatts gets in the ground. We've also issued an RFP in New Mexico and Texas for new resources to come on in 2024 and 5. So it's a constant thing of, especially here, of retiring old resources and bringing on new ones to meet your new load, but also to replace your most inefficient resources on the grid. So it is a complicated and sometimes a long process that I think isn't self-evident when you think about why aren't we just building more renewables? Well, it doesn't work that way.
I mean, yeah, there are levels of regulation that I don't think people fully understand when it comes to anything involving utilities, even within Texas, which is considered a fairly deregulated kind of environment. So it's not just a snap of the fingers thing, even with how it works in this current day and age.
Sure. And even if you're in a regulated or non-regulated market, I love that when they say they're non-regulated, there's not a utility in the world that isn't regulated. We're regulated by, think about it, the PUCT of Texas, the PRC of New Mexico, FERC, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. We have a lot of EPA. We have a lot of regulators that are looking at what we do. And that's appropriate, because when we made the regulatory compact, we agreed to a high degree of regulation. But what that means is, from an outsider's point of view, we're not moving as quickly as people would like us to do and not as responsive, but there's just a regulatory process we have to go through.
Again, if you're just joining us, guest right now, Kelly Tomlin, President and CEO of El Paso Electric, epelectric.com, their main website for any questions and, finding out more information about anything we're talking about here. The people that I think have most expect out of their utility is reliability, which has had a bit of a highlight on it both in the last years. We kind of mentioned at the top end review of it going on in other media sources here right now. And so in talking about, replacing, renewing, and doing different things, we had some hard lessons that were learned in the last decade, almost a decade ago exactly, for how things work or can end up not working here. And that was very evident again last year when there was the stark difference between us and practically the rest of Texas. So particularly when looking at these new things and integrating different things and making them work for the future, whether it be, utility level solar, distributed solar generation, which is increasingly common, how does that then work into making sure reliability can still be guaranteed as much as is reasonably possible for the people in our area?
Reliability and affordability are our 1 and 2 goals, right? So I think we don't know how reliable our system is. Every year they rank in Texas, the major utilities. The last ranking, we were first. We enjoy a high degree of reliability in this region. And to maintain that, we do a number of things. Right now, we're adding a lot of automation. So you don't have to call us. Nobody believes in the year 2021 that you have to call your electric company when you're out of power and let them know you're out of power. In fact, that is the case in most instances now. We are adding technology that will communicate with the utility automatically. We've already added technology that allows our substations to self-heal. And the goal is always to have what we call a self-healing grid, that human intervention isn't required, that it happens on a technical basis. So we're doing that. A lot of weatherization, people know that we have 300 days, or the mayor says 400 days of sunshine every year. But we still, as we experienced last year, have freezes, and we do a lot of work. And we learned in the, I think decade ago, that we had to do it. We've been busy these past weeks, really making sure that our generation system can withstand colder temperatures. And the team has been encasing some of our infrastructure, going out to make sure that our lines are free. So a lot of work's been done to ensure reliability, but that's for the weather. What really is required for reliability is investment, that you continue to replace old poles, that you continue to look for best-in-class technology, that you continue to be efficient as a utility. And so that's something we're really focused on too, is adding a lot of technology throughout our system, both on the administrative side, the customer side, and on the reliability side, to make sure that our system is first class, first rate, and we're not, settling for second best. So really, the ongoing investment and keeping up with trends around what drives reliability is the real area of focus.
We've talked a lot about both current, past, and far future, long-term goals, I guess would be the better way to put it. Are there any kind of shorter-term things just over the horizon for the new years we're looking towards that people might expect, new currents or new programs, that kind of thing, out of our electric utility?
And sure, and we're really focused this year on developing a new partnership with our customers. Obviously, we do supply the power, but our customers are the ones demanding the power. So you can expect to see a lot more education, a greater level of intimacy with our customers. We have a 5-part strategic plan. The first one is to build a trusted partnership, and you'll see us out more. You will hear from us more about what we can do together to lower energy prices. And sometimes just having people know, listen, if you can stay off during the peak, whatever that peak is, usually 5 to 7:30, you're paying for it because you pay for gas prices. So don't use energy you don't have to during those times, which makes me use a system that needs more gas. So, and also having a deeper understanding of how you use energy and how you can improve your usage. And I think that while that's an old conversation, we are starting earlier in the education system so it can be more intuitive. So you can expect that. You've probably heard that we will start our smart meter system. And that takes some time, but you'll be hearing a lot of information about that. And as we approach electrification, I think it's important to note that 2 electric cars is about the same usage as a house. So certainly we've already covered that, but you'll hear a lot from us about what to do if you were interested in an electric car, how we can help you, and a lot of information about that. But I think the future for us is granting more options, more information, and working more closely with our customers earlier and earlier on. So we feel like we're in it together, because we really are in it together. I represent 1,200 families who live in this region, who love this region, who have their heart dedicated to making sure that this supports the growth of business and the growth of prosperity in our region. So I think you're going to hear a lot from us on selling the region and our role in economic development and growing the region.
Kelly Tomlin, President and CEO of El Paso Electric, thank you very much for taking the time to come and speak with us and lay out some of these important issues that, recent history and into the future, near and beyond, will be affecting us when it comes to the electricity that we need to live the modern life here today. So thank you very much for talking about all of that.
Thank you. We're happy to come back anytime. I know this is a topic that is sometimes complicated, and we use a lot of acronyms, so definitely happy to come back anytime, Andrew. Thank you.
No, sure thing. Thank you very much. All right, due for that next break right now, but coming back after the break, we'll get to more of those comments and particularly those calls on the line here. That phone number now open. That number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I get a lot of information thrown at me doing this kind of work here, but something that I always appreciate finding out more about is how to take care of your health. And in particular, that's why I love being both involved in the production of and listening to what comes out of Dr. Sandeep Rao on his show, The Medical Hackers with Dr. Sandeep Rao, that airs every Saturday at noon right here on News Radio 690 KTSM. He helps you be involved with the knowledge about your health and hacks to navigate our complex medical system in the positive sense, in terms of like life hacks, so that you can be informed and able to advocate for yourself as a consumer of medical services. So again, that's Saturdays at noon here, but you can email him ahead of his next show by emailing rao@medicalhackers.com. That's his last name, RAO @medicalhackers.com. And be sure to tune in this coming Saturday at noon right here on News Radio 690 KTSM, right after the El Paso History Radio Show for the Medical Hackers with Dr. Sandeep Rao.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 News Update. Doña Ana County Sheriff Kim Stewart says her department is working with less staff due to a rise in coronavirus cases. As of today, the Doña Ana County Sheriff's Office is working with what she described as a skeleton crew. Sheriff Stewart also added that county management does not agree with her decision. An El Paso woman accused of beating her 4-year-old nephew and 5-year-old niece was re-indicted on capital murder earlier this month after her nephew died of his injuries. That's according to a news release from the El Paso Police Department. 31-year-old Jessica Nunez had been previously charged with 2 counts of injury to a child, but again, those have been upgraded now that one of those children has died. On May 22nd, El Paso Fire responded to reports of an unconscious child at 8869 Bob Kennedy Way. This has been your KFOX 14 News Update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Checking your El Paso traffic, I-10 westbound at Lee Trevino. An overturned vehicle crash from earlier is still blocking the 2 left lanes there. A crash with police responding I-10 eastbound at Hawkins exit ramp. Another accident reported George Dieter south of Montwood at Penndale. Another crash I-10 eastbound at Airways blocking the right lane and right shoulder. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. We've had some winds throughout the day, but now it looks like as we get into tonight, those winds will not be an issue. Hey, speaking about winds, they will be an issue for us this week, especially as we get to Christmas Eve and into our weekend. We've got some pretty decent winds in the forecast, so maybe a good time to make sure all those decorations are tied down. In the meantime, still no snow, but possible record warmth.
This report is sponsored by Panera.
Mike Huckabee is celebrating Christmas, and you can join him. All this week, Newsmax is featuring its special Mike Huckabee's Christmas in America. Even former President Trump joins Mike and talks about the war on Christmas. So watch Governor Huckabee and his special guests, John Voight, Joe Namath, Dr. Ben Carson, Sarah Sanders Huckabee, Benjamin Netanyahu, and many more. Christmas is more important than ever. Tune into Mike Huckabee's Christmas in America as he discovers the real meaning of the holiday. Newsmax is America's news channel for real news. Find it on all major cable systems. If your cable operator doesn't carry Newsmax, call them and demand it. Or get Newsmax streaming on Amazon Fire, Samsung, Roku, Zumo, Pluto, LG, YouTube, and more. Millions are watching Newsmax with the free app on their phones. So check out Newsmax for Mike Huckabee's Christmas in America. Let's make Christmas great again.
Talk El Paso, airing weekdays at 4 right here on News Radio 690 KTSM, focused on local businesses, local politics, local impacts of the day's news. Brought to you in part by Thrive 915 Food Fest. Join the conversation Monday through Friday at 4, and let's talk El Paso.
Right now at Wendy's, see why everyone is raving about their brand new fries. Natural cut, skin on with a hint of sea salt and guaranteed to be hot and crispy or they'll replace them. You know, the way fries should be. Try Wendy's guaranteed hot and crispy fries today at participating U.S. Wendy's. This report is sponsored by Wendy's.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. Keeping you informed and up to date. El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM. El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social pages we're on these days, including Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. And again, thank you to the guest from previous segment, Kelly Tomlin, CEO of El Paso Electric, talking about some of the major, again, no pun intended, currents going on with utility and what that might mean into the future. Some of the further implications we're really able to get into is that with the whole solar thing, there's been concern about set battery storage of it, essentially, because the reasonable point is that sun only shines at most half a day, less as we're just on the edge of the solstice here. And so can that be relied upon? And particularly since, the peak times from 5 to 7. So one of the implications might be that essentially electric vehicles could serve as that battery backup, but that's almost entirely another show here. So again, thank you to her for talking with us about these issues and the juxtaposition between, I hope the rest of Texas does well in this winter season, but we'll take those calls now also on this subject and the things that affect us here in the borderland. So that number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Ed Clore with a comment that I'm not going to pop up because of the way you said it, saying that looking like the phrase smart meters getting flagged. Oh, that's a concerning one. Some discussion over there about what that might mean for your ability to use electricity. I think it would probably primarily be a billing kind of thing, but it's kind of already happening if you're worried about the regulation of use. There were individuals who had the smart thermostats that during part of the various electrical issues happening in the rest of Texas found them changed without them remembering having done that way. So smart devices sure have a level of concern to them, even as I find myself increasingly having them. But I kind of take your point there. But if they are flagging that, that's weird and dumb, and I hate that. That's why we're on multiple platforms. Okay, but getting to those calls on the line here. Again, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Right now, we do have Tom on the west side with us right now. Tom, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. That was a good interview with, I guess her name is Kelly Tomlin.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to, obviously it was a recorded deal, but the question I would have for her if she gets back on is what percentages do we receive our power from? In other words, how much from natural gas, how much from wind, how much from solar, and how much do we rely upon like federal subsidies to get that done? Because kind of what I gathered from that interview, and not absolutely, but it was trending in that direction, is that she's obviously an advocate for electric cars. I'm not saying electric cars are a bad thing, but I don't think they should be forced down our throats. In other words, to me, natural gas is the most efficient and it's the best thing for Texas to run on because we have it and we can generate it and it runs clean. And it seems like there's this compelling or this overall environmental movement to push everybody to electric. And I don't know how we're going to power this much electricity through wind and solar. And the smart meter issue, that's eventually going to lead to control of our own homes and how much electricity we can use, or if not, they're going to make it punitive if you use too much at a certain time. It's going to be a restriction on our freedom when we don't need it. We have plenty of natural gas. We have enough natural gas in the United States to power the whole world for 100 years. That's how much natural gas there is in the United States. And we should be exporting it. So just kind of my thoughts on where this whole movement is going. It seems like we do have a well-managed electric company, but I'm not for all these subsidies and all this pressure for us to have to move over to wind generation and solar and us to go on electric cars. So we need to be careful of that, especially us in Texas.
That's one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this. I mean, you bring up some very relevant points here. I cannot tell you offhand a breakdown of what the actual use is, but what I will say is that, at least my impression without knowing percentages is that the majority of our power used in this area is generated locally. Yes, we are on the Arizona side of the grid, and so we do have some nuclear power, some wind power, some things like that, but the majority of it, to my understanding, is generated locally in some way, which does include, there was kind of a kerfuffle there for a bit over regulation of a new natural gas generation turbine. I think it was called the Newman plant, that I think is out on Montana, if I'm not mistaken. And so that's one of the newer ones that has been brought online, and there was potential for expansion of that. That's been tied up a little bit in, petitions and some court things, as almost anything involving expansion or changes, particularly to billing of the utilities, end up being. But, I mean, you think you got a point there. I think when it really comes down to electric vehicles, at least from the utility standpoint, what it seems to me, and this is open for debate absolutely, is that they're mostly concerned on how that will change, because powering houses is one thing, what they've been built to do. But as she said, powering 2 electric cars, each pair of those, is equivalent to another house. So if we do see big expansion there, that could seriously strain our local grid, essentially. So, I mean, if it starts coming down to force down the throats, yeah, you're going to start hearing me being unhappy. But I'm already dubious about the whole self-driving car revolution that I see careening our way as it is. But I think that, at least at this point, those are the major concerns about, keeping up generation, making sure we have it locally for the most part, and being able to respond if that demand does show up, which, again, it seems increasingly likely, particularly with most, major manufacturers of automobiles seeming to be moving that way as well.
Right. They're moving that way because it's being supported by the governments. I mean, the people that are driving around in Teslas they're getting a subsidy to drive that car. And not only that, for years, Elon Musk and Tesla Corporation was getting benefit from the government. And I didn't vote for that, and if I owned, let's say I owned General Motors or Ford or some other company, I wouldn't exactly be happy about other car companies getting money from the government to compete against me. So, and then we have to take into consideration as well, the whole industry around the automotive world. So how many jobs are involved? How many mechanics? How many people? Now, I know there are benefits to electric, but then again, environmental benefits. But then again, you look at the batteries. We're going to be, we're going to be depending on the Chinese for these rare earth minerals to make these batteries, and we're going to be more dependent on them. You look at the windmills all come out of Juarez. We see them come out of Juarez and come right down the Pete Domenici Highway and get pumped into I-10, and who knows how much the environment's getting destroyed by those things, because those things take so many resins and so many chemicals and all kinds of awful components to build those things. So, and then they put them up in farms all over the country, and we got to look at them. I mean, that's just pollution.
Yeah, the eyesore aspect of it. Yeah.
Natural gas is the way to go. If we power the natural gas plants and then convert it to enough electricity for the electric cars, that's fine. But the electric cars need to stand on their own economically. This subsidy deal is out of control.
You brought up
my thoughts.
Oh, you brought up a lot of important points there, so I thank you for that. We're gonna have to take that next break right now before ending into the bottom of the hour here. So if you want to call in with your 2 cents here, welcome to do so. That number to do so at 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. We are, of course, rapidly approaching the end of the year, but that means that you do still have time to claim your $50 off benefit of all breast thermograms when you call Therapeutics and Thermography, Inc., based here in El Paso, inside Biometrics at 935 Sunland Park Drive. We've talked about thermography a bit. It's a technique to help you detect things going on within your body that you might not be able to see on the surface, and even before other techniques are able to do so. Most specifically, FDA approved for detection of breast cancer, which is why Therapeutics and Thermography, Inc. has continued their $50 off all breast thermograms through the end of the year. So to claim that for yourself, give them a call at 915-401-4053. That's 915-401-4053. Or find them online at elpasothermography.com. That's El Paso, TheRmography.com.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 westbound at Lee Trevino, a crash with an overturned vehicle from earlier is still blocking 2 left lanes. I-10 eastbound at Airway, right lane and right shoulder blocked from an earlier crash. Another crash police are responding to, I-10 eastbound at the Hawkins exit ramp. I-10 eastbound at Trans Mountain. Got a big semi-rig blocking the right shoulder there. Stay left to get by. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Wendy's. Right now at Wendy's, see why everyone is raving about their brand new fries. Natural cut, skin on with a hint of sea salt and guaranteed to be hot and crispy or they'll replace them. You know, the way fries should be. Try Wendy's guaranteed hot and crispy fries today at participating U.S. Wendy's.
There's no place like home for the holidays, except when you're stuck sleeping on the pull-out couch in the basement. This year, I'm resting my head at Red Roof, in my own comfortable, affordable, and clean space. You know, you can save up to 20% this holiday season at Red Roof locations. Plus, pets stay free at Red Roof, so Fluffy can come along for the holiday fun. This holiday season, book your own space at redroof.com and save up to 20%.
Hi, Phil Swift here. When that next storm is barreling down, get prepared with the Flex Seal family of products. Floods can destroy your home. Push Flex base deep into cracks and holes to help prevent flooding. Seal doors and windows, patch leaky roofs and downspouts. Remember, when that storm is coming your way, keep your family safe and dry. Be prepared with the Flex Seal family of products. Available at flexsealproducts.com and fine retailers.
Podcast about podcasts.
Hello, and welcome to the Pod Club. I'm your host, Joe Piazza. Life is just too short to be listening to bad podcasts. Every week, we will bring you the latest and, dare I say, the greatest in podcast releases as we chat with some of the smartest and most talented folks in the business. You can listen to the Pod Club on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
If holiday music turns your joy all the way up to 10, then SiriusXM is your home for the holidays. From traditional and country to pop, soul, and so much more, SiriusXM has exclusive holiday channels dedicated to the music that makes your season bright. Listen in the car on the way to the party or in the living room as you're wrapping presents. Visit SiriusXM.com/listenholiday for how to start listening. Panera believes in saying yes to the good things. Yes to mac and cheese. Yes to topping it with cheesy Parmesan crisps. And yes to putting it all on a sandwich. The new grilled mac and cheese sandwich. Get $1 delivery when you order on the app. Panera. Live your yes. Restrictions apply.
Monterey Asset Management, superior multifamily property management services citywide.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. Coming up on the end of the hour here. So just a couple of things I want to make a point at here. Of course, Talk El Paso brought to you in part by former Monterey Asset Management, now M1EP Management Corporation. If you're tired of the ups and downs of the stock market, consider investing in real estate. M1EP manages apartments in El Paso and helps investors buy, hold, and sell property. See their website, m1ep.com. That's m1ep.com. To learn more about the many benefits and long-term appreciation of investing in real estate, you can call certified property manager Mike Baca at 915-592-4549. That's 915-592-4549. As well as the Thrive 915 Food Fest, their series of events that they've held in a variety of ways. Both ones we've talked about on air, had them as guests to discuss. And the business mixers I found incredibly useful. Just keeping the pulse of what's going on, particularly with small businesses, but also in doing that networking kind of thing. So some people you've heard on here, I've definitely met through that. So Thrive 915 Food Fest on Facebook, also the Texas Restaurants and Food Trucks. A good way to find a good next meal, but also know what's going on and other events happening in our area. So Thrive 915 Food Fest. Thank you to our sponsors and partners. They help us make this show what it is. It's our mission to have live local talk radio back here in the borderland. Quick note here for the rest of the week. We will be off on Friday for the Eve holiday. There will be a replacement, one of the podcast shows in the place. But we will be doing, in light of that, the call-in show tomorrow. So, particularly if you missed it last week, which I have more than a couple of messages on, you can make sure to call in to us throughout the entire hour, 4 to 5 p.m. tomorrow, Thursday, I guess, Talkback Thursday, another way to put it here, however you want to put it. It doesn't have quite the ring of Free-for-All Friday, but we'll do that here tomorrow. And then hope you all have a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year after that. We'll be back the week after on a similar kind of schedule, new programming and live shows through the week, except for the eve, and then back with new programming, and we might have an announcement or two to make going into that week relating to the new year, so stay tuned for that. Otherwise, some of the other topics we got going on, some changes to our programming in other ways, as well as more focus on what some of these factors. I mean, each interview I kind of think of as a piece of the puzzle, kind of helping to illuminate a section of the patchwork of issues that affect us right here in the borderland. And energy use and the future of it in our area is absolutely a part of it. So that's a very crucial one. So again, thank you to our guests from earlier this hour for discussing that, first of many, I'm sure, discussing what are the issues and how they be addressed in our area. Otherwise, that'll about do it here for us today. Oh, Ed Clore clarifying that maybe he wasn't actually getting flagged, that Facebook has just decided to put up markers for the milestone followers. I wish I could tell you we don't control that part. This is why we've multi-platformed to whatever they're doing. We'll have kind of a recourse. Anyway, we'll keep doing it 4 to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday right here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank everyone who did tune in, call in, comment, participate in the show. You all are what helped make the show what it is. And again, do it again tomorrow with the call-ins throughout the hour. So make sure to do that. Leave your pound 250 calls if you want to, and a whole lot more. Otherwise, we will see you tomorrow. Stay safe out there, and have a great evening. See you then. Another Medicare moment with Eric with Advocate Health Advisors now. Is there a lot of confusion with the VA and Medicare working together?
Unfortunately, there is, due to the misconception that Medicare benefits negatively affect your VA health care. You know, almost 60% of veterans aren't enrolled in their VA benefits. And what we do is we help them to coordinate these two. We partner with local certified veteran service officers to get veterans the expertise they need on how to navigate their health benefits through the VA. Then we provide options and choices to add a complimentary Medicare plan to that.
So for more info about this, call Eric, your local advisor, wherever you're hearing this broadcast, at 1-800-876-0214. That's 1-800-876-0214.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 westbound at Lee Trevino, a crash with an overturned vehicle from earlier is still blocking 2 left lanes. I-10 eastbound at Airway, right lane and right shoulder blocked from an earlier crash. Another crash police are responding to. I-10 eastbound at the Hawkins exit ramp. I-10 eastbound at Trans Mountain. Got a big semi-rig blocking the right shoulder there. Stay left to get by. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Freedom of speech lives here.
To me, freedom of speech is being able to say anything you want.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
One-on-one with Susan Eisen.
I was born in El Paso, and it's always been my home. Get to know us. We'll be your most trusted resource for buying jewelry and for all your jewelry needs.
When it comes to a jeweler you can trust, visit SusanEisen.com. One-on-one with Susan Eisen.
It takes me hundreds of hours each year for my continuing education on grading and pricing diamonds, and our focus is on providing value for you.
When it comes to the best diamond advice, visit SusanEisen.com.
Because you never hear this.
Hey, hon, I'm late.
Chris,